All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all so much for joining this latest installation of InMarket's Breakthrough Moments series. My name is Joe Intile, and I am the creative director here at InMarket, where we've got an in-house design team with specialists in everything from static and GIF to animated and rich media design. Now, this team worked on over 1,700 campaigns in 2020 alone, and it is with that experience that we've put together this list of our top performing campaigns from the second half of 2020. Now, I also want to take a moment to introduce our two guest panelists from KWG, the agency of record for Ocean Spray, which ran an immensely successful campaign with us last year. First, we have Carolyn Oppenheim, who is the EVP and Director of Strategic and Creative Insights. And we've also got Nicole Kingston, the Senior Director of Digital over at KWG. Now, we're going to be diving deeper into their campaign for Ocean Spray a little later on, but suffice to say, these two were beyond instrumental in bringing their campaign to life, from the creative vision to the implementation and finally delivery. So Carolyn and Nicole, thank you so much for joining our conversation and offering to share your insights with us today. Now, just for a little background, we began this twice yearly webinar series with the intention of sharing some of our most successful campaigns from both a creative and a delivery perspective, while also highlighting what brands and agencies can aim to do to stand out in an increasingly crowded ad space. And we're going to be taking a look at what goes into building these key components of a breakthrough moment. And we'll also get to hear again from Carolyn and Nicole about their strategy, their approach, and process for creating their breakthrough campaign. Now, by our definition, a breakthrough moment is a campaign that not only surpasses the industry benchmarks for mobile click-through rates and engagement, but one that goes on to shatter the immensely high standards that we at InMarket have come to expect from all the campaigns we run. So for a little bit of perspective, InMarket's Moments ad units typically see TRs of over 6.5 times the industry benchmarks for display, email, and even search. And they offer a unique opportunity to really engage with customers and own the path to purchase with this full screen message delivered via a trusted app on their phone. So every one of the campaigns we're going to be exploring today broke through these already immensely high standards. Now, for those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with InMarket and what we do, let me give a little bit of background information. So InMarket is the leader in 360-degree consumer intelligence and real-time activation. We use always-on 100% first-party location data to provide the most accurate and precise targeting, engaging consumers anytime and anywhere, giving advertisers a real-time opportunity to really engage consumers when they're going to be the most receptive in those moments that matter the most. And our 360-degree consumer intelligence allows us to measure campaign success with real, actionable, and strategic insights to power smarter future campaigns and increase the returns our clients obviously love to see. Now, before we dive in, let's talk a little bit about the benchmarks we're going to be measuring these campaigns against and how we go about choosing our top performing campaigns. We start out looking at the more than 1,000 campaigns InMarket ran in the second half of 2020. We then broke these down by the vertical markets, encompassing everything from CPG and finance to healthcare, retail, QSR, auto, you name it. Then from there, we take the top performing campaigns in terms of engagement, more specifically their click-through rate and behavioral lift. So as I mentioned before, the benchmark click-through rates we're comparing against are these three industry standards: Google Search, which has a CTR of about 4.1%, MailChimp Email, which is around 2.6, and then Google's mobile benchmark of 0.6%. And as I said before, all of the Breakthrough Moments campaigns we're exploring today surpassed all of these benchmarks by huge margins. So after that process, we finally get to look at the creatives themselves. So in my experience, it's often not going to be enough to have just a relevant ad shown to the consumer along their path to purchase. If the creative isn't engaging, people most likely won't want to interact with it as much. So our final layer in the selection process picks out the best looking, most engaging ads from the creative perspective, whether they used any interactivity or animation, or if it was simply just a beautiful looking static image that stood out of the crowd. So all of this makes up what we like to refer to as the anatomy of a breakthrough moment. When we're able to combine relevant information and offers, precise delivery and timing, and engaging creativity all in tandem, we see amazing results like the 5 examples we're going to explore today. So it is with all of that in mind that we created this Breakthrough Moments initiative. Now, we define a mobile moment as a point in time and space when people pull out a mobile device to get what they want in their immediate context. And as we all know, media consumption is cluttered more than ever. The average American is being exposed to around 6,000 to 10,000 ads every single day. So with this much competition in the advertising space, brands really only have a few split seconds of a consumer's attention to stand out and really try to establish a meaningful connection. So as a result of this, a significant amount of advertising and brand messaging is ignored unless the audience is personally invested for one reason or another. So for over a decade, InMarket has been dedicated to providing solutions for performance-driven brands and agencies to break through this white noise of media clutter, and just as importantly, to drive real value. So in particular, InMarket's Moments ad unit is a really valuable and unique one in that it combines timing, relevance, and context to elevate these brands and power real-time, full-screen, impactful campaigns that perform 6.5 times above industry standards. So with that in mind, we are now going to take this opportunity to recognize the second half of 2020's breakthrough campaigns and shine a light on how best to create lasting and powerful moments with your own advertising initiatives. So as we're all very well aware by now, just over a year into this pandemic, 2020 was a roller coaster of a year. Our previous release of this Breakthrough Moments series from the first half of the year showcased brands that quickly evolved and in a lot of cases benefited from a dramatic shift in consumer behavior, including the trend towards value and stress reduction brought about by the enormous uncertainty going on in the world. So as we enter into the second half of 2020, we saw not only a second surge in the pandemic, but a third as well, bringing even more uncertainty. So as consumers settled into this sort of new normal, we saw these standout campaigns that not only broke through the clutter, but connected and appealed to those consumers with a heightened awareness to protect themselves and stay healthy. Adapting to change included households that were focusing on things like cutting costs to manage budgets, individuals prioritizing exercise and self-care to manage stress and anxiety, and also adults turning to chocolate and decadent alcoholic beverages to mix it up and lift their spirits. Despite the unprecedented circumstances of the year, our latest Breakthrough Moments winners stood out and outperformed industry benchmarks by enormous margins. So now, without any more delay, let's dive in and take a look at the winning creatives now. So first off, we've got A2 Milk, who ran a static campaign with us that saw a 6.81 CTR, 11.4 times above the industry benchmark, which also resulted in a 15% sales lift. Now, milk is one of the most classic of all the household staples. It's found in almost every refrigerator across the country. As many consumers became more conscious of their diets this year and sought to strengthen their immune systems during the height of the pandemic, it's not a huge surprise that milk sales saw an increase of 8.1% year over year. So A2 milk, which is a variant that is void of A1 protein, and it's typically a little easier to digest, is one of the fastest growing milk segments with a compound annual growth rate of 15.8%. So A2 Milk's Love Milk Again campaign met this growing trend, promoting the brand's healthy line of milk, and using Moments, they targeted customers with an engaging full screen experience as they walked into select grocery stores. So for a product that needs really little explanation, the success of this creative, I thought, was in its simplicity. Using the brand's signature purple color combined with both product and fresh produce photography, the creative captured the attention of shoppers and executed a spectacular breakthrough moment. The call to action to save on A2 milk was the perfect message for shoppers to see as they walked into their local grocery store, prompting the high engagement rates we saw with this really successful campaign. So up next, we've got a campaign from Clif featuring their Builders protein bars. Now, protein bars have always been a favorite go-to for health-conscious consumers who are looking for a quick but filling alternative to sugary snacks, especially post a workout or exercise. And what Clif did here was to target healthy consumers and athletes both when they entered select retailers, and then leveraged this Moments unit to promote their newly rebranded Builders protein bar. So Clif's campaign goal was twofold here. First, they wanted to introduce the new look and feel, And then second, they wanted to invite customers to shop for the Builders gluten-free bars with their 20 grams of plant-based protein. This eye-catching creative's really bold color scheme, strong brand colors, and iconic typography reached shoppers while they were in the purchase process, resulting in strong engagement and a breakthrough performance that saw a truly impressive 8.34% TTR, 13.9 times above the industry standard. Now, in this pandemic world we're all living in, a lot of people are looking to avoid salons, but still maintain some semblance of normalcy and especially self-care. And the result here is that many consumers opted for at-home beauty treatments last year. So Nair leaned into this trend with a retro salon-styled inspired beauty moments campaign. The fun vintage theme of the creative with its throwback neon color choice and sparkles made it stand out from the crowd for sure. The neon sign headline was attention grabbing, and the centered image of these Nair products showed the variety of options available to people looking for an at-home spa day. And finally, we noticed both aisle and retailer callouts beneath the products. So in my opinion, one of the greatest benefits of these Moments units is their ability to direct customers to exactly where the product is at their precise moment of need, to lead them to purchase the products they want so that they, in this case, can go on to pamper themselves and create a memorable spa day moment at home. And clearly this worked well, as seen by their 8.23% CTR and 13.7 times above the industry standard benchmark. Now, all the examples up to now have used simple yet effective static imagery, but this campaign took things to the next level with an interactive unit that not only advertises two featured products, but prompts shoppers to swipe for a cocktail recipe, giving even more of a reason to seek out these drinks. Prairie Organic Spirits knew that with in-person social gatherings happening far less frequently, alcohol sales were soaring as the 21 and over crowd stocked up on liquor and got real creative behind their own home bars. And as I'm sure many of us are familiar with, as a safer form of socialization, virtual happy hours became the latest after-work craze. So Prairie Organic Spirits jumped in and served up a really timely advertisement featuring an organic cocktail recipe for all the at-home bartenders. Using a swipeable moment here, the initial screen shows a bottle of their Prairie Organic vodka, a can of its organic cucumber lemonade sparkling craft cocktail, and an eye-catching photo of the cocktail above. Upon swiping, viewers saw the ingredients and recipe to make their own Prairie Sustainable Smash cocktail. And the recipe was a huge success. Not only did they see a 21.92% behavioral lift and a 1.73% click-through rate, but viewers were spending on average 11.6 minutes on the creative, a testament to how truly engaging, highly relevant, and easy to use this breakthrough moment was. And now finally, we have our featured breakthrough moment from Ocean Spray, brought to us courtesy of KWG in the second half of 2020. Now, this creative saw an incredibly impressive 10.03% behavioral lift and a CTR of 7.54%. Again, 12.6 times above industry standards. Now, Ocean Spray made a huge splash in the ever-crowded ad pond with this summer campaign that featured different snack products. With decadent melted chocolate and cranberries that jump off the screen at you, this moment created depth without actually having to use any movement at all. And it's no wonder the creative was a success. A December 2020 survey InMarket released found that 25% of consumers increased their chocolate consumption during the pandemic, and 35% said they favor chocolate paired with fruit. So Ocean Spray snacks are a perfect healthy treat for hikers, beachgoers, or really anyone just looking to take advantage of the beautiful summer weather. And for a brand known for its roots in agriculture, the cranberry bog photograph is the perfect background. The well-written headline of "Chocolatey satisfaction is here" almost makes your mouth water, and paired with the imagery of rich milk chocolate and Ocean Spray's iconic fresh cranberries, the product shot is front and center in a seriously attention-grabbing way. And finally, the CTA featuring the aisle location provided all the essential information any shopper would need when they enter one of the convenience stores that were targeted by this particular campaign. So during a time when many shoppers remained at home, this breakthrough moment succeeded in driving people to the convenience store snack aisle with results that rang loud and clear. And so now that we've gotten a taste of how all of our breakthrough moments achieve their success, I'd like to gain even more insights from KWG, who's responsible for this campaign. So without any further delay, it is my pleasure to welcome Carolyn and Nicole into the conversation. Thank you both again so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so first off, I would love to hear about your approach to this campaign. Given the unusual times you were all living through, did you do anything differently to bring this idea together to best engage with people who were coping with the pandemic, or did you more so stick with the formula that has worked well for you historically?
It's funny, actually, the campaign, the original idea, the campaign was called The Best of Nature is Closer Than You Think. And it actually originated before the pandemic. And the whole idea was about bringing, it's sort of like farm to table, but it was more like, the bog to the 7-Eleven. And it was about bringing that best of the bog right to places that you wouldn't associate with nature, like a gas station or a convenience store. But then, of course, the pandemic hit. And in this instance, like a lot of other things, it just kind of accelerated people's, as you mentioned, people's craving for things like chocolate and salty snacks. But it also heightened their cravings for nature. And so the idea of bringing those things closer than you think became even more relevant as people weren't really out and about. They certainly weren't out in nature. They were kind of stuck home, and they were maybe just running out to get something small.
Yeah, I mean, I am definitely guilty of craving those chocolatey snacks and yeah, all of that. That totally rings true.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So can you tell us a bit more about the targeting and content strategies you put into action with this campaign and how these choices inform decisions like the messaging and the call to action?
Yeah, so the idea behind the targeting initially was really informed by what we knew about who this consumer might be, someone who was on the go, maybe had a job or a lifestyle that would cause them to be on the go and maybe need a snack. But with the approach, with the pandemic, again, as Carolyn mentioned, everything kind of changed. So we really needed to heighten the awareness of the snack in the snacking aisle for consumers who maybe would still be on the go. One of the insights that we have from what we know about, convenience stores is that consumers who are going into convenience store are most likely going to go straight to the refrigerator door for a drink. And we need to make them aware of other opportunities or other options in the store. So the moment was a perfect way to do that, to kind of hit those consumers who might not necessarily shop the store to begin with, but even more so in the pandemic, and remind them that we were there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to add to that too is it's one of the reasons why I really liked working on this campaign from a creative standpoint is it was such a, with this idea of the best of nature is closer than you think. The Moments campaign was so perfect to marry media and message to be able to do that specific thing. Like the best of nature is right here in this aisle, in this snack aisle, or, to be very specific and pointed about it was very exciting.
Especially when real nature is something everyone's craving so much. Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can see the amazing results you got from this campaign. The click-through rate, the behavior lift, those speak for themselves. But from your perspective, what were the most important factors in evaluating the success of this campaign?
Yes, so those really were two important metrics for us to measure. One, the engagement rate with that moment unit was very important to us because building off of what we were talking about earlier, making sure that people knew we were there in the store. So that engagement rate with the moment unit would tell us that we were making that impact and letting people know we were there and meeting them at that critical point in that journey. And then foot traffic, as indicated by the behavioral lift that we have here, was also a really important metric. Another reason why we opted to go with InMarket as our partner for this campaign, because this was a new product at the store. So it really gives us an opportunity to have that also to have that sell-in to the retail partners that we can effectively drive foot traffic to the store. So those two together, really points to the success of this campaign.
So can you talk a little bit about how the creative itself came together on your end? Were there any interesting visual or photographic considerations you kept in mind, or was there a specific copy call out or CTA you were really intentional about including?
Sure. So the brand has some equity in this visual style of kind of layering picture in picture of really striking visual assets, one on top of another with some dynamic type as a unifier. And so with this campaign of the best of nature is closer than you think, what we wanted to do is really put these kind of epic nature shots in the back with these really yummy, dynamic, mouth-watering images of the ingredients on top. So it gave it a little bit of this kind of telescopic effect that it appeared to kind of jump off your phone right into your hand. So it worked well for the concept. And I think there was a lot of appetite appeal for an impulse buy product like this. Oh, and you asked about call to action, and we kind of hit on that a little bit, but we tried to do things about like it's here or it's right around the corner and find it in the snack aisle. That sort of specificity really helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so when I see ocean spray, I immediately think of cranberry juice. What considerations did you have to take into account when working with such a well-established brand, but to promote one of their newer products that is maybe not quite as synonymous with the brand as their juice products?
That's a great question. The brand is actually in the process of trying to appeal to a younger audience with these new products, such as the ones we, featured in this campaign. But the core equities, and you hit on this a little bit, of nature, ingredients from the farm, and also these kind of positive feelings, all really kind of resonate with this younger audience. And so we leaned into all those things with this campaign, and we're going to continue to lean into that with the work from the brand going forward.
Yeah, I know positive feelings are something that I feel like everyone needs right now. So
right, more than ever. Right.
It's definitely a good thing to be putting out there. Yeah.
Good
Okay,
vibes.
so yeah. So if I could just for a minute, I want to talk about omni-channel strategies. Obviously, with so many people opting to either limit their time out and about on shopping trips or just avoiding stores altogether during the pandemic, an omni-channel strategy is an important thing to think about. Now, a moment doesn't necessarily have to be served in-app or even in a store. So have you thought of ways to reach consumers at home and across their other devices? And if so, how might that approach differ from this moment?
Sure. So when we're talking about targeting and how we're looking to reach consumers on their journey, that conversation and that approach to targeting has really evolved over time. We used to think of kind of targeting as one to many, which was, our legacy mass reach media, TV broadcast. Then that evolved to one-to-one, thinking about digital hyper targeting and finding that right person and messaging them one-to-one. And now that approach has even evolved even further to one-to-moments and meeting consumers at different points on their journey with very deliberate messaging that speaks to them and at that moment. And that goes beyond just one-to-one, because I'm not necessarily the same person or in the same mindset and might not resonate with messaging the same way I do on the weekend as I'm about to go grocery shopping as I am on a Monday morning getting ready for work, or even in the evening, at home sitting on my couch and watching television. So as marketers, it's important for us to consider what all these moments are and that they're not necessarily a linear path. And then determine how to reach consumers and deliver that most relevant messaging that will resonate in that mindset. So that's really where that marrying of media and message comes in when we're talking about how we're speaking to these consumers and where the right place to do that is. And that really then lends itself to an omni-channel approach, like you say.
I really love that insight. I think it's such an important thing to bring up, just that, we are different people at different points during our day and different times when we go shopping or we're at home. I think that's really, really great. Okay, so one of the things I love most about this creative is how it gives that sense of motion without, again, like I said, there's no actual movement on the screen. Now, there were some animated assets built out that were served in some of the out-of-store banners, but would you ever be open to exploring animated or other rich media capabilities for the moments in the next campaign?
1,000%. I think we always find you're right. We did do it in some other things, and to your point, I mean, it's still quite dynamic as a static, but I think we know that consumers really respond more to animation. It's a little more eye catching, and it adds to the dimension and to the flavor cues. So I think this type of campaign would work really well, and we broke out all the individual ingredients, and so it gives it a little bit more energy. And also it allows the type to be dynamic so that it's really a bit more disruptive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing that I love to do with some of our campaigns is, if we get the opportunity, do some A/B testing. We'll have one version that's static and see how people respond to that one. We'll make one that's, got a little bit of animation, or even there's, like a 3D photo effect of some sort when the phone is moved, to see, which one engages more, which one do people respond better to. So yeah, that's great to hear. Okay, finally, as we look into the upcoming spring and summer season, are there any strategies you're looking to put in place as a result of your learnings from this success?
I think we're all really watching the trends very closely to see what consumers are going to be ready for this summer. How far we can go, where people are going to be, and what they want to do. I think our ear is really to the ground for that. But I do think it's safe to assume that all of us are going to want to get out a little bit safely and enjoy the weather and be outdoors and some level of change of scenery. And we've been talking about that a lot, and it's actually fun to talk about, because there's real optimism in that. And so I think that if brands can connect to those positive feelings in an authentic way, I think consumers will really respond to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is so needed right now. Everyone's
Yeah.
desperately waiting for that good news. So
yeah, I think building on that, we learned from this campaign that you can drive impact with meeting consumers at the right moment with the right message. Yeah. So knowing, and you alluded to this earlier, that within market, those moment units don't have to happen in store when you're crossing into a store. There's an opportunity to speak to consumers at any moment. So building off what Carolyn says, what we're thinking about, where are people going to be? What are they going to be doing? What's going to drive impact with them in that moment? That's going to help us inform how we're going to speak to consumers as weather's warmer, people feel more comfortable going out and doing things.
Yeah, it is an ever evolving situation, and it is good to be, dynamic and be able to kind of pick up with the trends as they seem to be changing every month or every couple of weeks. So absolutely. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I think that about wraps up the Q&A session. So now I would like to turn it over if there's anyone in the audience who might have any questions or thoughts for Carolyn and Nicole that came up as a result of the conversation we had here. So no pressure at all, but if you would like, please feel free to send any questions through the chat window, and we can then address them here and hopefully hit on some other points or curiosities that arose today. Okay, cool. We've got a few coming in. So first question, what has been the biggest shift in consumer behavior you've seen over the last year?
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about this recently, particularly, what trends have accelerated as a result of the pandemic, and what are now here to stay. And there's definitely a lot of them, but I think some of the key ones that are really going to inform what we do as marketers moving forward is, first, we know now consumers are much more comfortable with a virtual lifestyle. So whether that be the way they communicate with people or attend events, streaming content, people are much more comfortable streaming content now. And most importantly, they're much more comfortable with a virtual shopping experience, whether that be e-commerce or online shelf browsing or touchless, contactless pickup and delivery options. So really making sure that we are keeping that in mind when we're thinking about how consumers are shopping. We also know that there is a much bigger focus on wellness, health and wellness, and that's really outside of just being healthy from I take my immunity supplement or my vitamin C. It's really bettering ourselves from all aspects of our lives, and we've seen consumers do that over the course of the pandemic, and we kind of expect that to stick as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, second one coming in here, looking to future campaigns, what are some of your plans to make your advertising more personalized, if you have any?
Hmm. I mean, I think I would go back to this same. I mean, Nicole, you could take it from the media side. I think again, trying to look into those trends and thinking about those moments about uh, where these consumers are, and are they looking for health information? Are they looking to have fun? Are they looking to get something done quickly? Is it, those sorts of things? And so I think like knowing that and knowing what they're interested in, and what their sort of pain points are, will help us jump in and be make the messaging more relevant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think there's a lot to be said about targeting to a consumer mindset
Right.
versus to just a consumer. And
Mhm.
we've been touching on that throughout this whole discussion. But I think there's a ways to really drive a lot of impact at approaching our campaigns from that perspective.
I mean, and I think to build on that, I think we learned a lot this year about how absolutely critical that has to be, and how nimble you have to be around that. Because, as we change from moment to moment, and as the world changes on us, we really have to think about how that mindset is shifting when I feel more comfortable in the world, and all that.
absolutely. Yeah. So let's see, a third one in here. What do you think has been the biggest challenge you face in creating campaigns throughout COVID-19?
um, Knowing what the right, striking the right tone, knowing the right thing to say and what not to say, and when to get involved and when not to, and what a brand has the right to say, and being authentic. Because I think we've all seen some brands that have gotten it right, and then other brands that feel really off base and they had no right doing it. And I think we've seen a lot of consumers kind of fall off and say, I never want to, you've ruined that relationship because you've done the wrong thing. And conversely, some brands that have gained loyalty for life because of doing the right thing. So I think that has been the most important learning, is really, really to listen to consumers and try to say something that's authentic to your brand, that strikes the right tone.
Absolutely. Yeah, very crucial. We've got one in here. Looks like it might be more for me. A question about how we measure behavior lift in terms of foot traffic or any other metrics. So behavior lift for us, when we measure, it incorporates past visitation into the calculation for an incremental visit. So, for example, if the consumer goes to a coffee shop 3 times a week, and they go 4 times the following week due to an ad exposure, that is what generates a behavioral lift. So hopefully that'll add a little more context into how that is measured on our end. Okay, one more just popped in. What about dynamic creative specifically? Are you serving more localized and personalized versions based on the time of day, location, etc.?
Yeah, I think thinking about that a little bit. Well, I guess one of the great things about this campaign is that we get insights into what things like mentioned here, like time of day, location, are driving the impact beyond what we thought originally in our targeting. So we get a lot of insights from, some of those insight reports that maybe help us then optimize our targeting for a future campaign. But we're also finding that there's a lot of our brands have very specific initiatives, whether it be in a very specific location or with a very specific retailer. So we're able to really personalize our ads through both targeting and messaging to meet those needs.
Yeah, it's kind of all encompassing. You got to use them all at once. Yeah, very much so. All right. Oh, one more popped in. Cool. As a result of the pandemic, since cranberries are known for their immune health benefits, have you seen younger and new customers?
I think we could both speak to that. Nicole, do you want to talk about it first, and then I'll?
Yeah, no, I mean, we know Ocean Spray benefited from a lot of new households during the pandemic. And we have leaned into, and Carolyn can speak to this, but leaned into that messaging about immunity and vitamin C. That's also intrinsic to the brand as well, because that it always has been, but just amplifying that, our messaging as well as our targeting, knowing that a lot of consumers are in that mindset still.
For sure.
And now I think it presents an opportunity because we have all these leaned in new consumers that know a little bit about us, but they don't, to your point, maybe they don't know about these new snack offerings or a new flavor or a new drink recipe or some other messaging. Maybe they don't know about our farmers. So there's a million things that we can tell them really specifically, I think, to keep them with us, to keep them interested. And it's exciting because we have a lot of things to say, especially to appeal to the younger audience, as I talked about before, because of nature and farming and the types of products and all that kind of stuff, and also a range of health benefits. So building on those things and kind of keeping it fresh, I think, is key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, has your interest in using rewards such as coupons and gameplay in Moments changed during the pandemic at all?
Yeah, I think another thing that we've seen in talking about shifts in consumer behavior is that consumers are looking for deals when it comes to shopping, more so than they were before the pandemic. And coupled with that, as consumers are more comfortable with their virtual lifestyle, they've become much more savvy when it comes to digital deals. These aren't necessarily people who are clipping coupons in the paper. These are digitally savvy native consumers who are looking for those digital offerings and rewards. So I think those types of offerings really do come into play in terms of speaking to consumer mindset now. And it's a great way to your point, to build loyalty and to understand who these consumers are and to inform, our targeting strategies moving forward.
And if I could build on that a little bit, I think that kind of what we're seeing is consumers are looking for value, right? And some of that value is in a coupon or a reward. Some of it is fun. Some of it is in a good recipe or something a break from their day or something exciting or something they didn't know already. And so I think in general, there's a lot of ways to view value. And so I think if we can deliver that and make it worth their while to spend that little bit of time with us, whatever that is, I think we've seen an increase in that.
Absolutely. I think that's so true. I know from my personal experience, directing all of our creatives over here, I've seen a huge uptick in the amount of coupon-related creatives and game moments that we've been putting together. People are just, I think, Nicole, to your point, with people being so much more comfortable handling things digitally as opposed to physically, clipping a coupon or something, like interacting with something in the store. That is, it is definitely no coincidence that last year saw a huge increase in those types of creatives. So yeah, that is absolutely something we're seeing come into play. All right, I think that seems like that's all the questions that came in. So I think we've covered them all. Great. Okay, again, I just want to give a huge thank you to Carolyn and Nicole. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is so nice to hear from your perspective which learnings you've taken away from your successful campaign, and great to hear how you plan to use these strategies moving forward from here. And I also want to offer a huge thank you to everyone listening in and joining from home. I hope you really enjoyed the conversation today, and hopefully some of these learnings can inform your future advertising plans. In my role as creative director, who is someone that's lucky enough to get to collaborate and work with agencies and clients with such great talent and insights, I think it's always a great idea to learn from success stories like these, especially when things in the world are as unpredictable as they currently are. Most notably, in terms of reaching people at just the right moment, taking cues from benchmark breaking units like the ones we looked at today can be a really valuable tool and a potential key to the success of any future campaign. So with that, you can all be on the lookout for the recorded version of today's webinar, and we'll be sharing that with you shortly. Once again, thank you all so much for spending some time with us today, and I hope everyone stays safe and healthy out there, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.